My dear parents, a very warm good morning to all of you. It gives me great joy to see you here, for having responded to our invitation to make it for this orientation program. And as you know, we've been announcing this whole thing of the career mark, and there was a question as to if career mark begins in the 8th standard, what is the point of having an orientation for parents having children who are still very small? No? That answer will be given to you in detail today as you attend the session. And I'm grateful to Father Joy Fernandez, who has made the time for us in the first place for training the senior youth of our parish to carry on the training programs with the children at the starts of in the 8th standard, and for making the time today to and yesterday to address the parents. It's going to be quite hectic for him because there was one session yesterday and today there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions. 4 sessions today itself for different batches of parents. Okay, so Father, thank you for that commitment. Father Joy, he's a Salesian priest from the province of Mumbai, and he's a professional clinical psychologist. Okay, which means he's got a lot of experience in counseling, in understanding the real problems that people go through. And he has a specialization in a diploma in career counseling from the University of Victoria, Australia. He's currently the director of Don Bosco Research Center and director of Prafulta Psychological Services in Mumbai. The stuff he has to offer is very rich in content, and I'm sure it will benefit you in helping you to have a perspective to the way you bring up your children. Okay, so I don't want to extend the time of introduction. I welcome Father on behalf of all of us, welcome you and the coordinating team that is there helping us for this seminar. Welcome, Father.
Good morning to all of you. First of all, I thank Father Isaac for inviting me to address all the parents. I'm also grateful to the team that has been supporting him behind the scenes to contact all of you, to invite you here, and to make this morning session possible. Thank you very much, Father Isaac and your team. So let me begin by speaking about this session. I have entitled it Parenting During Early Childhood. We have initiated a program in the parish which we have called Career Marg. Now we are beginning this from standard 8 onwards, and we will continue it till standard 12. So the question many parents might have, why do you call us now when our children are in the KG, first, second, third standard? There is still a long way to go. I can answer this very briefly if you look at this little quote that I put on the screen. Experiences, the skills and the competencies that children cultivate during their growing years help them to work effectively towards a happy, engaging and satisfying future and career. So, we can give our children a head start in life if we begin early. Now, I'm going to speak about some very commonplace things. You are probably already doing them, and maybe you might even take them for granted. However, if you understand that all these little small things that you are doing are contributing to build up your child, you would probably do them with greater confidence and with a greater sense of enthusiasm. You would know that little things that I'm going to speak about make a very big difference to the life of a child. I would always want to connect the present with the future. And when I do that, I would see that what does a person require across a lifetime? Basically, a feeling of self-confidence. I can handle my life on my own. And secondly, this feeling of self-confidence comes from the ability to do a few tasks well, and these few tasks are used across a variety of situations and they are used across the span of a lifetime. So, what are these? We might even take them for granted, we might even ignore them. The ability to read and write, the ability to communicate in different ways, verbally, through action, through song, through dance, through art, the ability to plan, to organize, to do practical tasks. We have our team here who are helping us with simple tasks like putting on the computer, playing for us these songs, advancing the slides. These are practical tasks. So all these tasks, many of these tasks, can be learnt early in life. And when they are learnt early in life, children are able to do them with ease and efficiently. So what is cultivated during the earlier years helps to do them efficiently during later years of life. So I'm not going to speak about anything very extraordinary, just the simple things I have projected on the screen. Every stage of life develops certain abilities and certain competencies. What we need to keep in mind is that if we successfully cultivate these competencies during the early years, they form a strong base for what happens later in life. If something goes wrong with these basic competencies, then the child is likely to struggle across a lifetime. So what are these basic things that a child picks up during the earlier years? The first thing is what I will call the acuity of the senses, the sharpness of the senses. I will speak about this in another slide. But basically, during earlier years, children are sharpening their sense perceptions, sight, hearing, touch, taste. The next thing that we need to cultivate is what is called eye-limb coordination. For example, in order to hold this thing and to turn the page, I require to combine what I am seeing with the movement of my hands. This is eye-limb coordination. We need to cultivate language during the early years. Through all these things, a child needs to cultivate a bond with the parents. Now that bond is one of the most crucial things, and I have realized through the many counseling sessions that I am having with adults, the problems that people are having in their adult years are because of these bonds that have gone wrong with their parents during early life. Another very basic thing that a child cultivates during the early years is a feeling of self-worth and the ability to handle life on one's own. I'm going to speak about these through the course of this next 45 minutes or so. So I said, during the early years, what we need to focus on and ensure is that the child develops the acuity of the senses. Now, the senses are of sight. For example, during the first 2 years of life, the child is slowly learning to identify faces. First, it identifies the face of the mother, the father, those who are close by. Then it distinguishes known persons from unknown persons, and slowly the child begins to recognize familiar faces. So the ability to distinguish and recognize faces is crucial. The next thing is the ability to identify and distinguish sounds. Now these look like ordinary things, but if they don't happen, they create big problems. Now, identifying sound, for example, to identify the sound of a crow and the sound of a myna, and to be able to distinguish one from the other. Now, this becomes the basis of distinguishing the sounds in language. For example, 7T and 17. Now, if this identification and distinguishing doesn't take place, it's likely to become a source of difficulty for all the child's study. Another very crucial thing in the early years is the sense of touch. Through touch, a child begins to distinguish different surfaces. For example, this is smooth. Okay? This is like a metallic and it's cold. Okay? This is elongated, it's kind of cylindrical. I can grasp it. Now, through touch, the child learns to recognize objects. For example, if I put my hand in my pocket right now, I can feel my handkerchief and it's soft. I can feel my cell phone without looking at it. So, be able to recognize objects by touch is very crucial. These form the basis of learning. Another very crucial thing is to tolerate different sensations on the tongue. For example, hard, when a child eats hard food, when a child eats crunchy food, when a child eats soft food. Now, if this doesn't happen, if the child is not able to tolerate different types of sensations, it creates a problem. Just last week, a child was referred to the center, and the parents are saying she's only eating kurkure and things like this. So, cannot eat rice, cannot eat soft foods. The basic issue is this: the child is able to tolerate sensations that are crunchy, but is not able to tolerate foods that are soft. Now, these are sensory problems. This is what is called sensory acuity. This child is not able to tolerate a diversity of sensations. The next thing is movement and balance. And this plays a very crucial role, as I will explain sometime later. So, what parents may need to be aware of, especially if you have smaller children, like your children fast, even KG children, these are the first things to be able to be able to take note of and ensure that they are well developed. Another thing that happens in early childhood, the first thing that happens is the development of the senses and the sharpening of the senses. As I said, this forms the base for all future learning. The next thing is to cultivate language. Now, the basics of language are imparted to children already from the age of 1, 2. Okay? When the child learns vocabulary and sentence structure. So, how does the child learn this? The child learns this by actually hearing the parents talk. I remember several years earlier when my cousins had their young babies, and they would be talking to their 2-month-old babies and enjoying that conversation there. And I began to say to myself, my God, these girls are really foolish. What are they talking to this child who understands nothing? Now, as I look back several years later, I understand that they did just the right thing. When parents talk to their little babies, the child is picking up sounds, distinguishing sounds, intonations, breaks in words, sentence structure. So, something very crucial for parents to do during the time when children are young is to talk to them. The more parents talk to children, the more easily children pick up the basics of language. Another very crucial thing to do when children are small is to read stories from picture books. Now, children will not understand the printed words, but if there is a picture book and the parent is reading stories, the child is looking at the stories and understanding the sense of what is being said. Another very crucial thing that happens at the early years is for children to pick up the names of different objects. So, a very simple but crucial thing for parents to do is to point to different objects and name them. Because when the parent points and names objects, the child is picking up vocabulary and is learning the names of different things. At another stage, the parent names the object and asks the child point to the object. This is the crucial stage to understand whether the child is able to comprehend what is being said. So, these are the crucial aspects of language that a parent needs to take note of during the early years. Another thing that I said is movement. So, children develop their muscle strength, eye limb coordination through exercises and play. I'd like to screen a little video. Please have a look at this, and I will tell you why it is important to do this. I just filmed this little video with children in Don Bosco Matunga, with children of the KG class. Just have a look at the exercises that are being taught to these children. It's a very brief video, but please take note of everything that's happening.
This simple hopping exercise across all the squares of the ladder is an important and effective way to test locomotor skills and coordination, where the child has to jump with both feet together and keep balance from one end to the other.
You will notice that
Here the
child
trainer
is
is
not able to
going
do with
apart
both.
together with his legs. So there's coordination across the midline of the body. And here he's doing a second level where his upper body and lower body are coordinating while he goes apart and together. Jumping in and out of the squares is a lot of spatial awareness and coordination. In the form of animal walks, this is an upper body strength exercise. It's the bear walk. A lot of locomotor and gross motor skills are working here. This is the duck walk, which works the lower body, all the large muscles of the lower body. A lower body strength exercise. The crab walk works both the core, the upper and the lower body. Static balance exercises, very important for focus and concentration, as well as testing the balance of the children. Lateral jumps over the small marker is a good dynamic balance exercise, where we see the child is able to jump by keeping his balance when he lands. So balance and coordination. This is a body parts exercise: head, knees, toes, head, cone. It's also for quick reaction, how fast the child processes the information verbally given to him. Another coordination exercise. Left hand and right hand are doing different things, but following the same pattern. This is a level 1 for smaller kids. Jumping over the hurdles is a very good way to test gross motor skills and coordination. Jumping with both feet over the hurdles, keeping your balance while you land. Similarly, jumping with one leg over the hurdles in a running action also is a coordination exercise between the head and the legs to jump over the hurdles. The zigzag run is a good way to test the student's spatial awareness and movement across various planes. This is level 2 of the same exercise, but the turns are sharper and the movement across the planes is deeper with more coordination, balance and change of direction. In the shuttle run, the child knows the numbers of the cones and he has to run to the particular number and come back quickly, changing direction, keeping balance while he turns. The ball throw is a simple hand-eye coordination exercise with different levels, where you catch with both hands. Second level is catching with a single hand. Third level is jogging and catching with both hands. Fourth level is jogging, catching with one hand. Fifth level is jogging, clapping and catching with one hand, and it goes on like this, increasing as the age of the child increases.
Okay. I hope you like these exercises. Now, we introduced these exercises in Don Bosco Matunga. We've been doing it across the last 3 years. And the teachers of the class have been noticing some fantastic changes. Firstly, the children tend to be more concentrated and focused. They tend to be calmer and they are associating better with their peers. Now, let me tell you why. Why are these exercises so crucial? And I'm insisting on this, especially because during the lockdown, probably physical activity among children has drastically reduced, which I am afraid could cause a lot of future problems for children. These play exercises, for example, the animal walks, they strengthen the muscles of the hands, arms, shoulder, back. Now, why is this important? This is crucial for a child's ability to sit and write. If the child is not strong, does not have strong enough muscles of the back, the child will be drooping, sitting down like this. If the muscles of the hand are not strong enough, then writing will become a problem. So, don't take these exercises for granted. You are actually building up the ability or the child's ability to sit, focus and write. Now, when these exercises are happening, I could say a lot of other things. Beneath the surface, especially during the early childhood years, the child's brains are building connections. So when we say eye-hand coordination, the brain areas that are controlling sight, which are at the back, and the brain areas which are controlling movement of different parts, say for example, a different part of the brain controls just the movement of the fingers. Another part of the brain controls the movement of the arms. Another part controls the movement of the legs. So, when these coordination exercises are being done, the child's brain is building up connections between sight and the limbs. So, what happens? When this happens, the messages from the senses, from the eyes, touch, hearing, go more quickly, they are processed quickly, so it increases reaction time. So a child is able to do things faster when these exercises are done. So if children do this, you will find that their writing skills improve, their ability to use the scissors to assemble objects also begins to improve. I would have gone into further detail, but I would be going off the mark to show how this might create a vital role, especially for language and mathematics, but I won't go into that now. Another important thing that happens through these exercises is that children learn to concentrate and focus. Now, when children are doing this jumping exercise to make sure they jump into the square, they are actually beginning to concentrate, they are beginning to focus. So these exercises are building the child's basic abilities to focus, to concentrate. It's easier for them to shift from play to tasks in the classroom. Yes. That's the reason also compression activities, for example, compression of the shoulders, also tends to calm the child down. It's like when you give a person a massage, it activates the calming system of the brain. So these tend to calm a child down. That's why these exercises tend to be beneficial in various ways. Now, when we are speaking about physical tasks, here are a few tips and a few cautions. Children develop a sense of competence and confidence in their abilities each time they succeed with a small task. Have you noticed when the child finishes this, there's a big smile. Now that looks so small but very significant. When the child discovers I can complete a task, the child is developing a sense of self-confidence. So each time a child does a task, like for example, learns to button a shirt on its own, dress on her own, to write on her own, she is developing a sense of confidence. That is one of the benefits of this. Now we have to be cautious of one thing. This plays a big role even into later life, so I am addressing caution at the start. Sometimes when a child is not able to complete an activity, a physical activity which another child is able to do, parents may tend to say, you are useless. See, you are not as good as that child. Now those dangerous comparisons break down a child's confidence. Please don't do that to your children. Okay. So when children are doing exercises and they are not succeeding as quickly as you want, or they are not succeeding as quickly as another child, be patient with the child. She will pick up over time and she will catch up with the rest. So encourage the child without being critical. Okay. Now let's go to another thing, area play. Another very crucial thing that happens during early childhood is play. So several things happen during this time. When children play, they learn to interact with each other. So children are developing up their social sense and their social skills. Secondly, when children play, they talk and communicate with each other. So they are building up the basics of language and communication. When they give instructions in a game, when they follow instructions in a game, they are developing their language ability. Also, children learn teamwork, which is crucial for life. So, for example, in a football game, not everybody shoots the goal. Some are forwards, some are defenders. There is a goalkeeper who never moves up. So, children learn that different persons play different roles in life, and it's important to cooperate with different persons. This forms the basis for teamwork building up during early childhood. Another thing that happens, especially with smaller children tend to make up imaginary games. Their imaginary games have no limit. For example, fairies coming to the help of others, soldiers defending their home. When children create games, it's already developing the basics of creativity. So allow children to create their own games. A few cautions with respect to play. Now when children play, sometimes they are enjoying their game and the parent has to move to some other activity, so you've got to take away the child. During these times, the child might resist, cry or throw a tantrum or want to go on with the game. It's important for the parent to wean the child away from the play, but the parent needs to know not to be harsh and not to criticize. Because when the parent is harsh and criticize, the child develops enormous feelings of guilt. At the same time, when the parent weans the child away from play towards some other activity, another very crucial thing is happening. The child is learning a balance between play and restraint. This balance between playful, happy activities and restraint is very crucial for later emotional balance during a lifetime. So it's a skill for parents to be able to get the child to play and to gradually wean away from play without being harsh, critical or punishing. I've spoken about the acuity of the senses. I've spoken about the crucial importance of physical muscular strength, coordination, balance, movement and play. Now, in case there is deficient development in a child in any of these areas, what will happen? It might result in several difficulties. That's why we need to take note of them as early as possible. So, they will have difficulty with play or practical tasks. So, for example, if a child has these coordination difficulties, tying shoelaces, putting on buttons, will become a problem. I know of children even in the 7th and 8th standard are unable to do this. Okay? They will tend to have difficulty focusing on tasks, so concentration might become a problem. They will have difficulty reading, writing, and doing maths. So the basis is in all these activities. If there is deficiency in any of these areas, it will reflect in these ways. Sometimes they will tend to have emotional difficulties. Children who have sensory or coordination problems may tend to be irritable, some may tend to be aggressive, some may be fearful and very kind of passive. All these will be associated with deficient development in these areas. They may also lack feelings of confidence and have feelings of inferiority. So we need to be able to build up on those basic skills early in life. Now, if children are displaying these difficulties and you're already noticing them during the early years, then those children may need special attention to build up the earliest competencies and skills. So most children get through these tasks on their own, but on an average between 7 to 10% or 12% of children are likely to have difficulties in these areas. If you notice them, please address them at the earliest. Otherwise, they tend to dampen self-confidence and abilities across a lifetime. Suppose the child has caught up with these activities, then ahead, we need to focus on these areas. Allow the child to play, especially 1st to 4th standard. Language, academic development, and peer interaction. I'll speak about this briefly. Now, in terms of language development, what can a parent do in fun and easy ways? Some of you may already be doing this. So, for example, get the child to develop vocabulary as much as possible. So, if you go to a vegetable market, point out to the names of different vegetables and let the child learn the names of vegetables. Vocabulary development. You go to a grocery store, names of the bakery products, dairy products, seafoods. Let the child recognize visually and name. Similarly, when you go to a stationery store or a kitchenware store or even in the house, to help the child to develop, this is cutlery. Spoon, fork, knife is cutlery. Your plates are crockery. The other ones are your cooking utensils, the names of different utensils. You go to a musical store to point out to different instruments and teach the child the name of these instruments. So you are developing vocabulary. Now, this for smaller children, especially children KG, 1st standard, that's when vocabulary develops. Because the stronger the vocabulary, the communication ability also increases. The next thing is to frame sentences and to frame sentences grammatically, even simple things. For example, verbally describe different objects. So for example, if I ask a child, can you describe this? So there are so many descriptions that go into it. It's circular, there's a blue rim, there is a black center, there are legs, and you can jump on it. The child learns to describe this. This is increasing the child's linguistic ability, which will help in language. Or you can tell the child, older children, can you tell me what happened on the playground? The child learns to describe events there. Or tell me what happens in school. A very crucial thing is when a child speaks about this, apart from language, the child is making a bond with the parent. So when the parent asks the child to speak and hears the child out, the child is developing a bond with the parent. And the parent-child bond is being established, which is very crucial. Okay. Or we can ask a child, read a story to the child and ask the child, now can you tell me in your own words what the story is about? And help the child to fill in the gaps. Another thing for the development of language or any future ability is the ability to organize. Now, A simple activity or a series of activity that can be done with smaller children is to do this. Say, for example, you place a variety of objects on the table. You place vegetables, you put fruits, you put some dairy products, bakery products, and then you tell the child, separate all the fruits and keep them here. Separate all the vegetables and keep them here. Separate all the dairy products and keep them here. Separate all the meats and keep them here. In this, the child is learning the basics of organizing and it's learning concepts. So food is the bigger concept, vegetables, fruits, dairy products, etc., meats are different types of food. You are helping the child develop conceptually as well as the organizing skills. Similarly, if you put different types of objects across various types, the child can say, okay, these are kitchenware, these are stationery items, these are food items. Okay? So, grouping objects in various ways helps to develop the child's abstract and conceptual ability as well as organizing ability. Okay. Very crucial at the young age is while we are developing vocabulary for objects, it's very crucial to help the child to develop a vocabulary for feelings. Now, this is seldom done, but it has a game-changing experience in the life of a child. So, for example, when a child is feeling sad and you get the child to name that feeling, I am feeling sad. When the child is angry, or if the child is throwing a tantrum, if the parent names it and says, so you are angry, the child learns to name the feeling. Or if the child is feeling worried and anxious and the mother says you're getting worried, the child is learning to name a feeling. Now, why is naming feelings crucial? When persons are able to name feelings, or when children are able to name their feelings, they can communicate what is happening to them internally. And when their feelings are understood by the parent, the child will tend to calm down. Now, what we notice is that children who are not able to adequately express their feelings in words tend to get aggressive. So if a child is angry and is not able to say, I'm feeling angry, the child is likely to turn around and slap somebody or fling or throw something. So impulsiveness gets cut down when we develop in children the vocabulary for feelings. Moreover, when children are able to describe what they are feeling, it's easier for their parents and teachers to understand them, so caregiving becomes an easier task. Already at a young age, we need to notice that different children display different types of interests. So, you will want to understand what interest does your child spontaneously have. Does the child show an interest in art and craft, in singing and dancing, maybe in sports, in reading, in assembling objects, in operating computer applications? Now, when we notice a child's interest early in life and we help the child to develop her natural interests and capacities, we are actually priming the child for a future career. A lot of the child's future careers are based on interests that they already display as children. I remember in my locality there was a young boy, already at a young age, he was excellent at drawing faces, cartoons, etc. He was also interested in language. Today that boy is a top person in the field of communications because he is combining art and language. So, interests that a child displays early in life become the basis maybe for future career or important sideline hobbies. Together with this, we will also be aware of the child's strong and weak subjects. We need to be aware of which subjects the child likes, which subject the child is good at. Now, when you see a combination like this, a subject that a child likes as well as is good at, combine it with a hobby, you're already getting an indication early in life for the child's future career. Also take note of what the child dislikes and what the child is struggling with. Now, what we need to keep in mind from an early age, encourage the interest in strong subjects, because that is probably indicating the direction for the future career. At the same time, help the child to get through the weak subjects, because the child has to pass through all the subjects in order to get through to school. So, develop the strong subjects, but also strengthen the child in the weak subjects, so that at least till the 10th or 12th, the child gets beyond this. Now, it's not all about career and future and my success. We can also help the children to develop what is called a moral sense, especially when they are young. Now, that's done in some simple ways. For example, suppose a child hits and slaps another child. Suppose a child is extremely critical with another child. Or suppose a child gives a gift or helps another child with tasks. Some crucial things will be to ask the child, when you criticized or hit the other child, how do you think that other child must have felt? So we are developing empathy as well as we are developing a kind of moral sense in that child. Or suppose you ask the child, if that child were to hit you, what would you feel? I would feel angry, I would feel hurt, I would not like it, I'd want to hit him back. So then you put it back to the child. So see, when you are doing this to the other child, see what you are doing there. So through simple activities like this, you will tend to build up the child's moral sense. Also help the children to evaluate the actions that annoy you as parents or annoy others. If children are constantly behaving in some way, it's good to help them to say, see, when you are doing this, it's disturbing me. It is hurting someone else. When children are made aware of this at an early age, they tend to rectify more easily. I remember a mother speaking to her little daughter who was extremely aggressive. And again, this child had a difficulty communicating in language. This child would go on pinching her brother, disrupting her brother's study, hitting other children at a very small age. So this mother was very perceptive. She asked the child, see, when you do this, you know, you're disturbing mama at her work. See, when I'm cooking, you pushed me, I almost got burnt. You want mama to get burnt? Ah, mama, I didn't want to burn you. But see, mama is getting burnt. So that child, who could have become a terribly impulsive and aggressive child, learned to tone down through the mother getting her to evaluate her actions. The next thing that parents can develop in children at a young age is a spiritual sense. Now, what we traditionally call spirituality is like, we teach children prayers. We teach a child, you come for Mass, you go make your first Holy Communion, or you go to make your confession. But actually, spirituality is a lot wider and simpler than all that. And the main thing is when you teach a child to connect life and prayer. So, for example, when a child is about to study, you can ask the child, before you start studying, invoke God's blessing on your study. After the study has been completed and you have studied well, thank God, thank you, Lord, for helping me with my studies. An important thing is to pray for different persons. So tell the child, now after we have studied, let us pray and thank God for all the teachers who have taught you. Thank God for all the teachers in your school, for all your classmates who have done. Pray to help them to bless other children. You know, there was something that struck me when I visited the house. Bishop Lutz Daniel is the Bishop of Nasik. When I was parish priest in Pune, he was also in the parish, and I visited his house. There's something that struck me so much. There was his nephew who was 6 years old. Usually, what does the parent says? Now you come, hold your hands and take mama's blessing. When Father Lutz Daniel, now Bishop Lutz Daniel, went to the house, he bent down and said, "My son, bless me." And the child blessed his priest. Then he told me, "Father, please take the blessings of this child." So we also learn that children can give blessings, not just receive blessings. We develop a sense of spirituality in them. Also, we help the children to reach out to others in small ways. In this way, they are also extending their spirituality as service. So, small actions like this link the entire life of a child with God. They are linked with models, they are linked with skills, they are linked with connection with parents. I remember this practice, especially praying. I was in this boarding in Andheri. I remember such a tremendous change after I got children to pray. I would ask them, "You pray for different intentions." And then we would say the rosary. And these were small children, not as small as this, like 5th and 6th standard children. They would be talking among themselves, "My mommy is not well, my daddy is not well, somebody is sick, somebody has died." And during their prayer, the children would spontaneously, "Let us now pray for so-and-so's daddy who's sick. Let us pray for this one who's having difficulty with his studies." When children learn to connect prayer and life, they develop a very strong, connected spirituality. And one of the important things for mental balance is also a sense of spiritual connection. Now, when a parent accompanies a child through all these areas of life, the parent also develops a strong bond. And that bond with the child through activity, which sometimes can become fun and playful, carries the child through life. Okay, with this, I've ended my presentation. Let me see. Do you have any questions? I've covered a lot of things within a short span of time, but I thought I need to communicate to you some basic things that probably you are already doing, that if you are doing them, you may get confidence to say, "Come on, let's continue doing it," or "Let's enhance this thing that we are doing." Or if you notice that maybe the child is struggling, maybe you may notice that the child requires assistance at a younger age. Okay, so you can ask any questions if you have them now.
To relate each action that my children do and which are the areas that they are good at and which are the areas that I need to understand how to help them out. But I have one question for you is like with the exercises and all that you showed, as you rightly said that during the lockdown, our children are like they're unable to go out and play, or even if they're going out, it's just that small exercise. Are we hoping to see something coming up from this parish? I'm sure Father Isaac would be able to help us.
Okay, the parish, let that come a little later. Some of these things can even be done in a home. Okay, definitely they can be done in the parish. If they are done in school, so much the better. But I think schools may not be allowing smaller children to come in. So, with restrictions being imposed by the government, maybe whatever can be done in a smaller, these exercises that I've shown, we are doing them with older children. We are doing these exercises with our football players. And they are under 16, under 18, 18 plus. At the age of 62, I am doing some of them myself. Because I notice that my sensory functions are slowly beginning to diminish. And one crucial thing I'm realizing, when I do those activities, I'm more alert and I'm calmer. These have been designed by Mr. Edgar Mascarenhas. Mr. Edgar Mascarenhas is the sports instructor. He's a former Olympian. He's a National Olympics hockey player. He has designed these activities. Then I realized he was doing these activities in a graded way in the school. And when I noticed it, I said, Edgar, what you are doing is something marvelous, because all these exercises are very similar to what our occupational therapists are doing with children who are having sensory processing difficulties. And it is helping them. So I said, if we introduce these activities, they can definitely help our children as well. So you could possibly do them at home. I do them even in my room. Like, with the squares in my room without having any other equipment, I do these exercises there. Things like langdi and, jumping, hopscotch. These are simple things that are likely to make quite a significant difference to children. If children are having a problem, they will resist doing them. I've noticed that when children who resist doing them are put through them, after some time, when they notice the benefits, they want to do more of them. So you may want to, gradually encourage the child without forcefully pushing the child to do these activities. These exercises which Mr. Edgar has designed, in Don Bosco Matunga, they are projecting it as part of the KG first, second standard program. So once a week, these exercises are demonstrated. So if there is a caregiver together, it can be a grandparent, it can be any older person, that person helps the child to do these activities. So sometimes if these can be done, I'm asking Edgar, can you break them up into smaller sections with guidance to parents as to what is to be done? We'll probably do that. I think this would be a very big contribution, knowing the difference that it makes to a child's life. Yes. We'll see how those can be extended to all of you. Okay. Yes. Okay. See, when I spoke about acuity means the sharpness of the senses. Okay. So, if a child is not able to distinguish 70 and 17, this is already indicating a difficulty in distinguishing sounds. And if there is a difficulty in distinguishing sounds, it will reflect in difficulty understanding spoken language. Again, if it is understanding spoken language, then even spellings and reading will become a difficulty. So that's why I said one of the crucial things is to develop that ability to distinguish sounds. Now, how do you do this? You don't simply go into sounds of language which are more sophisticated. We begin to help, among smaller children, it is good to get the child. Okay, can you tell me what is the sound that you are hearing? The crow. What's the sound of the crow? Caw, 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 caw. Or if you say, what is the sound of a myna? Okay. Can any child here make the sound of a myna? Make, let me hear. Now, when children distinguish, grosser sounds, that is already priming their ears for distinguishing sounds of language. So, for example, the direction of sounds, the intensive, which is a higher pitch sound or lower pitch sound. That's why singing also plays a role. So when a child is able to distinguish ranges of sounds, that is also building up the basis for language. That is picking up the differences between the sounds of syllables and of words in a language thing. So language is actually sounds put together. So when the child is able to distinguish basic sounds, it extends from environmental sounds to sounds of language. But if a child is having difficulty distinguishing them, those would be red flags to say that further language difficulties are on the way. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So that's a good question to ask. In case a child is displaying difficulties like this, then we refer the child usually to a clinical psychologist, or if there are any sensory issues, okay, that means with hearing, especially movement, balance, taste, touch. Okay, so some children, for example, now this parent who's actually doing programs for children said, my God, Father, I'm doing this for other children. I didn't realize my own child had this problem. So, this child has a problem with balance. And this balance thing is creating a difficulty in his studies. So now, if a child has sensory things, or he's saying the child enjoys any rough surface, like, this kitchen washing, what do you call that? Scrubber. Takes the scrubber, the child enjoys that. Probably the child is undersensitive to touch. So these are what are called sensory acuity. So if there are any sensory issues that a child is displaying, and it can be with respect to touch, taste, sight, smell, hearing. Some are oversensitive to certain smells. Then they begin to feel pukish. Now, in case there are any sensory issues like this, it might be a good thing to take the person for an evaluation to an occupational therapist. So, among children, occupational therapist or a pediatric neurologist, they would be good to diagnose this and make referrals. The treatment for problems like this is generally occupational therapy. And usually when they develop one of the senses, the others also tend to get enhanced. So, an occupational therapist or a pediatric neurologist who would be able to do this.
Somehow when I ask him to eat with his hands, he cannot eat. But my younger one can eat very nicely.
Yes.
This fellow, all the rice comes out like
Okay.
he just cannot do it. But at the same time, his handwriting is very good.
Yes.
Even I cannot match the kind of handwriting he has.
Yes.
So is it normal?
Maybe this needs to be enhanced. See, even in any particular sensory area, the child might be good at some things and might not be good at other things. But in case this is there, it's already showing some kind of a coordination, the fine motor coordination difficulty. There are simple exercises that can help with this. Say, for example, stretching a rubber band, holding things and pulling them across. They strengthen the muscles of the fingers and they also help them to do. So small sense, it's not a cause for worry if his handwriting is good, but you can strengthen them already by doing simple exercise. What you need to know, in case there is a problem with finger movements, then you can't just start with the fingers. Because for the fingers to function well, you require the support of the back. You require the support of the shoulders. You require the support of the biceps, of the forearms, of the wrist, of the palm. So, if you get the child to do all these other type of activities, it is also likely to slowly strengthen the fine motor movement. What I've learned from our occupational therapist at our center, among smaller children, increase gross motor strength first. That's why play. That's why these exercises. That's why this hanging. So when those are strengthened, then you can move into the fine motor, which are the movement of the fingers. So that would be a general tip. I won't be able to tell you this, but if that is there, it's like a slight coordination difficulty. So you might want to strengthen other areas to see that this gets.
Answering the question, playing with clay, I think
Yes. Playing with clay plays a big role. Molding objects with clay, okay? Or say, for example, threading a needle, that will increase, eye and fine motor coordination. Or like, putting a needle through a button, which is again, it's both spatial, visual, spatial, and motor activity. So I'm not an occupational therapist, but definitely these are simple things that are done in KG classes in primary school, which will have a grade. Especially clay, which is harder. When you have to mold that clay, you are strengthening the the muscles of the hand. Those might be little helpful things, but I don't think it may be a cause for worry if other areas are okay.
Example 6, 3, P, maybe B, small b. We always write the reverse side.
Yes.
Sometimes it happens, not always.
Okay, so now let me relate that back again to those exercises. This is a directionality issue. Okay, a directionality issue is this. B, D, okay, P and Q. They all consist of a circle and a line. But for some, the line is on the left and upward. For others, the line is on the left or downward. Now, have you seen children jumping left, right? Those are directionality issues. So, if children are put through physical exercises, then it helps in some way to create that sense of directionality. So, part of the thing among these exercises, we help the child to distinguish what is up and down, what is left and right. Now, I'll show you how that simple thing like directionality and jumping makes a difference in maths. For example, in maths, you have to move from right to left. But children who are having that problem will constantly calculate subtraction, addition, left to right. So now that's a directionality issue. B, D, P, Q is all directionality issues. So if you notice, these children may get confused if you ask which is my left hand, which is my right hand. So when children do exercises and they call out the name left, right, front, back, up, down, when they associate a word with a movement, a physical movement, it also helps to correct that sense of misplaced direction. Directionality is a spatial issue. So they can be corrected through these physical activities. I'm happy you asked that question. So you will know why that, running zigzag. So if the child right, left, if the child says it while actually moving, the child is already getting a spatial sense. It's correcting a spatial sense. Okay. Yes. These are natural. So this is part of personality. Some children's personality would be more extroverted. Other children's personality will be more introverted. Okay. So you need not be afraid of that. That is not showing any kind of pathology. It is just a personality issue. However, introverted children can be very expressive among a close group of people. So it would be better to focus on getting that child to express himself or herself rather than, comparing the child and forcing this child to be like somebody else. Extroverted children will spontaneously be verbally expressive. Introverted children would naturally tend to be quieter. So some of these exercises that I said, can you tell me what happened? It's both descriptive as well as expressive. So while not being too worried about it, the more important thing is to give the child the ability to bond and to express, which is very crucial for that child. Otherwise, I don't think it's a question to be worried about.
My dear parents, we are supposed to have in the next session at 11 o'clock. But I'd just like to tell you that from the interactions that we've had and the questions that you've asked, Father, definitely it is connected to you. And there are a lot of things that we need to clarify. I'm sure that there are some of you who have children who are also in the category of the 5th to the 7th standard, right? And that is the middle childhood portion of our life journey. So if you have children in that category, please stay back. Because I have gone through Father's content for the session that we took yesterday that covered a combination of 1st to the 7th, covering both these sessions together. So that has got a lot of other stuff that you need to know and do at your homes in your respective places, okay? So if you can just make that time and sit back for the second part of the session, it will be immensely beneficial for you. I can assure that. And we'll wait for the others to join us. We can take a small little break right now so that since the others are supposed to be on schedule, we'll give them a chance also to enter in. And those of you who can stay back will also please stay back. Thank you so much. Thank you, Father.